Johns Hopkins University is the largest private employer in Maryland with over 50,000 employees, 26,000 students, and nearly 100,000 alumni living in the city. Each year, we generate over $4 billion of research investment from the 9 schools at Johns Hopkins, including our schools of medicine and engineering, and the applied physics lab just down the road. That puts us #1 in the country for 44 years in a row in terms of research spending. I wake up every morning for 2 reasons. One is to make sure that that $4 billion doesn't just go to knowledge for the world, but practical applications that can turn into products, jobs, and companies. The second reason is to reimagine the skyline of Baltimore filled with the names of companies coming out of our great research institutions. This is not a new playbook. Many of you have seen what happens when anchor institutions and cities lean in to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We've seen it in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, California, Massachusetts, and Georgia. Those states have generated more than a 3 times return on their investments in this ecosystem as a result. And Baltimore is next. Johns Hopkins, along with the city and many of our partners, is making these investments in this very ecosystem. If you think for a moment about 3 of the largest companies in the world that were venture-backed, scalable, with tens of thousands of employees each, these 3 companies were started by students when they were students. Now, our faculty and students at Johns Hopkins may not think of themselves as catalysts for economic development, but they too can bring the next great companies into this world and build them right here in Baltimore. If you think about 3 different cities at a point in time, let's say 40 years ago, Boston, San Francisco, and Baltimore, they all had similar characteristics, similar populations, similar opportunities, and similar challenges. 2 of those cities recognized long ago that by fostering innovation from the anchor institutions into the ecosystem, that those cities could be vibrant and dominate the cities of the future. With a nod to the history of the B&O Railroad, get on the train because Baltimore is next. Just as the 1990s and 2000s were redefined by the internet, we anticipate that the next decade or 2 will be redefined by AI and data science. Johns Hopkins recently announced a major investment in AI that will be larger than the investments of MIT, Stanford, and Harvard combined. We are hiring over 100 new faculty. We will have hundreds of new graduate students in these areas, and we've committed to building a half a million square foot state-of-the-art facility in Baltimore to house these efforts. Let's talk about another major investment. There is an 88-acre parcel of land, Eager Park, just north of Johns Hopkins Hospital. We, along with the city, our community partners, and philanthropy, have continued to invest in this area, which is now a vibrant biopark with affordable and market-rate housing, graduate student housing, and a privately funded 6-acre park. I encourage you to visit. We built our innovation hub there and delight to have our startup companies locate there. One thing that was very obvious when I was asked to take on this responsibility about a decade ago by the president of Johns Hopkins was the need to bring more capital into the ecosystem. And I'm proud to say that for the 150 companies that we have spun out, as of today, our companies have raised over $5 billion in venture capital. That was a very intentional effort that comes with building programs for these entrepreneurs. I'd like to conclude by telling you very briefly about 3 builders in this ecosystem. One is Johns Hopkins Dr. Bert Vogelstein, who has founded 3 successful companies and counting. His life's work as a cancer researcher has turned out early-stage detection cancer tests and therapeutics companies. Ellington West founded Sanabi Labs with her father, serial inventor Jim West, who invented the microphone in each one of your phones. She is reimagining a smart stethoscope that can monitor and diagnose childhood asthma. And finally, my good friend Nick Culbertson, a medical student at Hopkins, when he had the idea for a software company for cybersecurity that protects our medical records. These are the folks that are building the future skyline of Baltimore. Just like our beloved Orioles that went through some tough times, we are now on the rise and winning, just like Baltimore. Thank you.